I bought my daughter a sandbox to play with in our garden outside. I watched her play for a while, then went inside to cook dinner. After a while, she came inside the house through the back door. I was about to tell her to wash her hands when I noticed she was holding her left eye in pain. It seemed to have swollen shut. "What's the matter?" I asked. She replied, "I'm riding on the last local bus for the night. I don't know if it was the effect of the light drinking, but I was nodding off when the sound of the stop button being pressed made me snap awake. The next stop is my stop. Oh shit, if I missed my stop, the next stop would be the bad part of town. I get off the bus alone as the empty bus starts pulling away. Phew, that was a close one. I was extremely lucky. There was rumoured to be a tunnel at which when going through you can meet a ghost without exception. 3 girls decided as a test of courage to visit this tunnel. Due to fright, they decided to go during the afternoon, but even during the afternoon, it was terrifying. So while holding hands, they began to journey into the tunnel little by little. After the journey through the tunnel, all 3 said in unison the exact same thing. "Thank God, I was in the middle." A phone call. In the afternoon the day before yesterday, I was eating lunch with 2 of my friends from work at a restaurant. One of my friends' phones started to ring. Friend A answered the phone. "Soon, I will kill you," someone said and hung up the phone. After 3 minutes, my phone started to ring. When I answered my phone, "Soon, I will fucking kill you," someone said again and hung up the phone. 3 minutes later, after leaving the restaurant, friend B's phone started to ring, and the same thing happened to him. We were certain that it was another person from work playing a prank on us. My friend jibed. He said soon, but it's been a considerable amount of time already, and we all burst out laughing. The street signal in front of us changed to green and I was about to cross over when suddenly I heard the squealing of brakes. "Watch out!" my friend yelled and grabbed my left arm. When I looked to my right, a delivery truck had stopped just next to me, narrowly missing my right shoulder. The driver got off and apologised to us, and I also apologised for being careless. A's cell phone started to ring, and he answered it. "You were fucking lucky," someone hissed, and hung up the phone. 2 dreams. When I was younger, running was my speciality, and it always has been. I never lost a single race, and as a result, I was always the centre of attention in school. My dream has always been to become an Olympic athlete. I had a friend called James who I'd always race against, but of course I'd beat him every time. But he didn't seem to mind, he'd always just laugh it off. James's grades at school were the best in his year, but was terrible at sports and talking to other people. He had no friends and was always bullied, but somehow we were close friends. One day, I noticed James was being bullied by students in the year above from us. I happened to be walking close by and hid behind a tree to watch. I wanted to help James, but was scared about being bullied alongside him. In the end, I ran away. The next day, I ran into James on the way home. He seemed to act like nothing was wrong, and I ended up doing the same. He must have not noticed that I had run away from the scene. Suddenly, James started to talk. You know, I have 2 dreams. One is to become a doctor, and the other is... He whispered so quietly I wasn't able to clearly hear what he was saying. I just grunted back, and we continued walking. The days flew by. I graduated from college, and I was working hard to fulfill my dream of competing in the Olympics. One day, after practice, I was walking back to my house around 11 o'clock at night. It was a gloomy night, it was cold, and there was no people around. I stood in front of the vending machine to buy a can of hot coffee to warm myself up, when suddenly I heard a heavy thud. Before I knew it, I felt myself sink to the ground. Then, my consciousness must have started to drift away. When I opened my eyes, I saw that unfamiliar white ceiling. "Is this Sydney?" I mumbled. I was still in a daze. At that moment, my mum next to me said, "It's northern Tokyo, dear." In my confused, dazed state, I didn't know what was going on. I didn't feel sick or anything, but the bottom half of my body felt slightly uncomfortable. My parents began to slowly explain to me what had happened. "You were in a traffic accident. The doctor told us he wasn't sure if you would make it. Even if you lived, he wasn't sure if you would ever regain consciousness, but he devoted all his efforts to try and save you. He told us the only way to save your life would be to amputate both your legs. I'm really sorry." I was lost for words. By God, how could something like this happen? In one moment, I had lost all my aspirations and dreams. I began to scream and retch. I threw up everywhere. When I calmed down, I told my parents to leave me alone. I couldn't bear to look at them. After a while, I heard a knock at the door. "Thank goodness, it seems that you've regained consciousness." A man wearing a white scrub walked in. I recognised that face from somewhere. "No way! James?" "Yes," he replied. Why was James here? I was confused. Just as I was wondering what the hell was going on, James began to speak. "My second dream has also come true now. You're always so good at running away." The Legend of Tisan. I got on my scooter and left to go grocery shopping. As usual, I was driving along the highway when I noticed a beautiful girl in a red one-piece dress. I was distracted by her astounding beauty, and before I knew it, I ran into a truck coming from the opposite lane. Thankfully, I used to do judo when I was younger and was able to perform the defensive stance before being hit. I survived with only multiple serious bone fractures to both legs. Half a year later from now, Kay, a friend of mine, was also hit by a car on the same highway. Although they quickly rushed him to the hospital, he had already lost consciousness and soon after he passed away. I talked to someone who was in the back of the car when Kay was driving, but he was in shock. He just whimpered to me. "The woman in the red one piece, I looked." I was astounded. The same woman I saw when I crashed. How could this be? Maybe she was some kind of evil ghost? I realised this sounds ridiculous, but soon after there was another crash on the highway in roughly the same location me and my friend crashed. This time it was a hit and run incident. After reading the story in the local newspaper, I was convinced that the woman in the red one-piece dress was some sort of evil ghost or messenger of death. A few days later, I was reluctantly sitting in the car of my co-worker, Tisan, driving along the same highway. Tisan's parents owned an old temple called the Kame Temple, and thus his ability to perceive the paranormal was extraordinary. I told him the story of the messenger of death, but he just shrugged. He didn't seem to be afraid at all. But then, it happened. We were nearing the location of where I had crashed when Tisan suddenly yelled out to me, "Is that the woman you were talking about?" I looked towards where Tisan was pointing, but I couldn't see anything. However, as I concentrated and strained my eyes, I saw her. She was there. The woman who was wearing the same one-piece dress from before. I turned around. "Yes, that's her! That's the woman! She's right there!" Tisan exclaimed. "Not anymore! Look!" Tisan interrupted me, pointing out to the front of the car. As I looked, a woman with a gouged out face was clutching onto the wheel of the truck in the opposite lane coming towards us. The truck was starting to swerve from right to left uncontrollably. "Take the handle!" Tisan climbed halfway out the window. What the fuck was he doing? I yelled at him to stop and come back inside, but he took no notice. Determining his aim, he thrust out his palms and shouted,
"Wait, I've heard of this technique. Right now he's gathering all of the latent energy in his body. Then he's going to release it all at once. But I've never seen it in action before."
Yelling that, a large blue-white orb of light shot out from both his hands and struck the woman right in the face. She went flying into the distance and disappeared. Tisan sighed. "Another job well done." Saying that, Tisan lit a cigarette and continued to drive on. I looked at him awestruck. I wish I had trained under the Kame too.
Shut up and sit down.
Hello YouTube, want to play a game? I would just like to point out, there's nothing you can do to escape me. I'm not doing this because I'm ill or have cancer or anything like that. All I'm doing it, I'm just doing it for the lols. There's no escape. once you watch this video.